So in this video I will explain the difference between constitutional, conformational and geometrical isomers if we have a chair conformation. For example, let's say we were given these compounds A, B, C, and D, and we were asked to find the relationship between A and B. If you look at A and B, you will notice that in A, the groups are at positions 1 and 3. Whereas in B, the groups are at positions 1 and 4. Since the branches changed their positions, then the A and B are called constitutional isomers. So whenever you change the position of the branches, which means that you are changing the atomic connectivity, then the relationship between the compounds will be constitutional or isomers. Why? Because we are changing atomic connectivity, or we are changing positions of the branches. If we compare now A and C, we will notice that in A and C, the branches are still at the same positions 1 and 3. However, the only change is that methyl, which was at axial position, is now at an equatorial position, but ethyl is still at the axial equatorial position. So we don't have a complete flip, we have partial flipping of the groups, and whenever you have partial flipping, then those are called geometrical isomers. Why? Because we partially flip. We partially flipped the different groups. So we flipped one of them, which is the methyl group, but not the ethyl group. Finally, A and D. In A and D, the groups are at positions 1 and 3. So those are not constitutional isomers. Ethyl, which was equatorial, is axial now, and methyl, which was axial, is equatorial now. So since we have a complete flip, this means that the relationship between A and D is conformational isomers. So this is the main difference between constitutional, geometrical, and conformational isomers. Geometrical isomers exist only if we have a di-substituted cycloalkane. So if you have a cycloalkane, whether it's cyclohexane, cyclopentane, or whatever, and you have only 2 substituents at this cycloalkane, and of course those substituents are at different positions, then you may have or draw geometrical isomers. If the cycloalkane has one branch, no. If the cycloalkane has 3 branches, no. So we can only talk about geometrical isomers in case of cycloalkanes if we have 2 branches or 2 substituents. If those 2 branches were on the same side, and by side I mean both are wedges or both are dashes, then this is called cis. However, if one of the branches is wedge and the other one is dash, then the compound is said to be trans. And in this case, the relationship between this compound and this compound is geometrical isomers. So in geometrical isomers, the branches will be at the same position. So we have 1 and 4 in both cases. So we have the same atomic connectivity. However, the main difference is that in one of them, the branches will be on the same side or cis. On the other one, the branches will be trans. And in this case, the relationship will be geometrical isomers. If the branches were at different positions, then those cannot be considered as geometrical isomers. Let's say you were given this compound and this compound. Yes, this is a cis and this is a trans. However, since in this compound the branches are at 1, 3, and in this one are at 1, 4, the relationship between those two compounds is not geometrical isomers. Those are not geometrical isomers. Those are structural isomers. So keep in mind, whenever you change the position of the branches, then you have structural isomers or constitutional isomers, even if one of them is cis and the other one is trans. So, how do we transform the cyclohexane from the hexagon form into the chair conformation? Those carbons which are in red are usually those ones which are again in red in the chair conformation, and the blue ones are the blue ones on the chair conformation. All what you have to do is just to draw the branches and make sure that the orientation is correct. So for example, in this case here, the CH3 is wedged, so it's pointing up, and that's why when I put it at this position I have to put it up, so it has to be at the axial position. And this CH3 is also up, so when I put it at this position it should be also up, and this is the correct chair conformation of this compound. You can also draw the other chair, so the flipped version of the chair. Again, this position here is this position. CH3 is up, so my CH3 is up. CH3 is up, so CH3 is up. And this is how we draw the chair conformation. If we have the trans compound and we want to draw the chair conformation, in this case, this group is down, and that's why I draw it here as at an equatorial position, because this equatorial position is pointing down. The other CH3 should be up, and that's why this position, this CH3 is up. If you draw the other chair or the flipped chair, then the same thing will happen. Remember that, for example, at this carbon here, if you draw the CH3 at the axial position, this will be pointing up, and that's why this is incorrect. So it's very important when converting hexagons into chair conformations to make sure that the orientations of the groups are correct. Let's take more examples. For example, in this case here, our ethyl group is pointing down, that's why I draw it here, and then my CH3 is pointing up, so I draw it here. Some students get confused in drawing groups which are at this carbon and this carbon, and that's why there is another way for doing this, which is just flipping or rotating the ring. So if I rotated the ring in this direction, it's going to look like this. And now the ethyl group is pointing down, so this doesn't change the orientation, that's why it's down here. This is pointing up, so it goes up here, or in the other way around. So it's either both are correct, drawing it in this way or in this way. This is actually the same thing. But if you get confused how to place groups at these two carbons, you can rotate the original structure so that your branches end up at the well-defined positions, the blue and the red ones, and then this will make your drawing easier. Let's take another example. Let's say we have a methyl here and ethyl here. This is a cis compound. Those two carbons are those two carbons. Methyl is wedged, so it's pointing up. This is up. Ethyl is also up, so it should be drawn in this way. If you put it at the axial position, ethyl will be down, which is incorrect. Let's say the branches were at those two positions, which are those two again. If you can easily draw the ethyl group here, that's fine. Methyl is up, ethyl is up, and this is a correct position. If not, just rotate the structure so that your methyl ends up at this level here, your ethyl will be here, and now again ethyl and methyl, this is up, and this is how you draw it in the chair conformation. So this is how we transform the hexagon shape into the chair conformation while keeping the orientation of the groups in the correct way. In the last part of this video, I will again go back to the topic of the relationship between different structures, constitutional, structural, and conformational, or geometrical. So let's say we have this compound, which is A, we have another compound, which is B, and then we have compound C, so if I was asked to find the relationship between structures A and B, step number one, always whenever you are asked to find the relationship, is check the positions of the different groups. If they change, then your compounds are structural isomers. In this case, I have 1, 4 versus 1, 3. Since I changed positions, those are constitutional isomers. A and C. So see, in this case, I don't care if the first compound is cis, the other one is trans, the other one is trans, because once I noticed that the positions of the different groups have changed, then in this case, the compounds will be constitutional isomers, and we cannot talk about geometrical isomers anymore. Now, in case of A and C, the groups are at positions 1 and 4 in both, so those are not constitutional isomers. However, compound A is cis, the other compound is trans, so the relationship between these two compounds is geometrical isomers. We cannot tell if the compounds are conformational isomers unless they are done in the chair conformation. So usually if the structures are given in the hexagon shape, conformational isomers will not be among the possible options to see in this type of drawing.